Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you. You've made it to the last session of the day. And you know, it says a lot. I know Bobby was saying it's gorgeous outside. So it says a lot about our dedication to what we do, that you're still making the time to hop on the Zoom with us and join us for this session. So my name is Heather Rabadou. I'll be your moderator here, your host this afternoon. Just going to go through a few housekeeping items before we get started. So first of all, I hope you're learning a lot and really enjoying our MACAE Spring Institute, and the beat's just going on and on. Despite the fact that we have to be virtual and none of us really want it to be, we just want to, again, make sure you know that we're dedicated to what we do, and we're dedicated to bringing you the best professional development opportunities that we can, given the circumstances. A few items to mention. Please remember, if you have any questions or need information, you can always visit our MACAE website. You can always join our monthly check-ins as well. Also tonight, Renee and I will be hosting Family Feud. So we're bringing that back. We did that, I can't remember when, a couple of conferences ago, and it was a big hit. So we're bringing back the Family Feud. So get something to drink, something to eat, bring your family, come have a good time. That starts at 7. And also the recordings and the slideshow and any information that's shared during our session today will be made available to you at the end of the Institute. Last but definitely not least, if you're looking for sketchies, please remember at the end of the day today, if you're only doing a one-day Institute, you can submit your sketchy form. If you're going to be back tomorrow, please wait and submit it one time at the final end of the Institute. You should already have the email link to do that. All right, so we encourage you to keep your cameras on if you can. I know it's getting towards the end of the day. We're almost out of here. We're like starting to get to that point where we're like, okay, we're ready to wrap up. But if you keep your cameras on, it will just help the session go so much better, and everyone will feel a little bit more in person and more animated and lifelike. So all that being said, thank you for joining us today. We're here with Bobby Dorigo Jones and Stephen Wallace to learn about student advocacy. Bobby, I lost my introduction to you, but Bobby is the Vice President of Michigan's Children, and Stephen is the Regional Engagement and Mobilization person at Michigan's Children. And so they're here with us this afternoon to kind of lead us through this conversation about how we can elevate our students' voices. So go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Wallace. So we just want to get started with you guys. If you guys don't mind sharing some of your experiences where you had to, elevate a student voice before lawmakers. If you want to, hop on your mic and say something really quickly, that would be cool. Just raise your hand in the Zoom, and so you have like some order, or just type it out. Think about, was it impactful? What did you think made a difference? And what would you like to learn to make these even better? We hope by sharing these experiences with each other, we can, all come out of this better advocates. So feel free to share.
Well, I'll go ahead and share. I'll jump in first here and say that I had done a student speak event back when I was with Michigan Works in Lenawee County a few years ago. And one of the biggest things I think that was impactful on me was just, it wasn't a huge event, but it was just the students that came and that they really did not have any clue what advocating for themselves was all about. And so it was really beneficial for those few students that came, and it was eye-opening to those of us that planned it, because I don't think we really understood at the time how disconnected they really were from what they could do by advocating for themselves.
And if you don't have something to share, we'd love for you to at least drop your name and what program you're representing in the chat.
This is Maha. I'm going to do the same as Heather did. We did the student speak, and we're actively always advocating for students' voices. And one of our exceptional students today is the guest, Fatima, who's been with our program since I actually started adult ed almost 4 years ago. And she had done the initial student speak. And then again, to see her progress to today. So to me, she's the live example of what adult ed, of what we do, to see the transition of where she started and where she's at today, and to hear the stories. And there's no more effective than the students advocating for themselves. But yes, student speak, a lot of people kind of worry what that is. It's really just having, if you get to know your students, any director or any navigator or anybody that works in a program, if you get to know your students, to know their stories, you pick 2 or 3 students that have, I mean, they all have substantial stories, but pick 2 or 3 students that had that journey, where they were, where they are today, and how did adult ed impact them, and then just have them talk about that story. There's nothing much more that you need to do. Just, it's an authentic, raw experience that you're trying to capture. And if you have them do that, and then have them say it, it's different because it resonates. You know, hearing their accent, a lot of them don't want to participate because they're afraid they don't have the proper grammar or the right words. That is the authenticity that we need to hear. These people are really trying. So I think if anything, you want them to make mistakes when they say those words. You want them to be raw. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the impact is unbelievable. So I urge anyone that's if anybody's interested in doing a student speak or any of those engagements, to let us know. I mean, we can help you because we've done this before and it's much easier than it sounds.
All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate that. So, just to run through our goals real quick for today's presentation, we want to understand the impact of raising your student voices with decision makers. We want to understand what it looks like to raise student voices, and we want to learn how Michigan's children can help you raise student voices. So that's what we're here to do today. We're going to have a panel, with Maha, Courtney, and Fatima. And then, after I ask them some of our already written questions, we're going to give the audience a chance to ask a few questions. And we're going to wrap up with a brief presentation. And we'll let you guys get out of here and enjoy some of this good weather we got going on today. All right, so I just want to introduce our panelists. So we have Courtney Carter. She's the lead ESL instructor from Kent ISD Adult Ed. We have Maha, who's an assistant supervisor over there at the Dearborn Schools. And Fatima, she's a student that just received the high praise from Maha, also at Dearborn Schools as well. So my first question I have for you all, our panelists, is how has adult education impacted you? And if you're a teacher or a staff member, what is a really strong story you heard from one of your students that motivated you to keep going in this line of work?
I can go first, Steve. I'm not sure. You're cutting off a little bit, so I think this is for the panel, right? Just to make sure this is for the panel.
Yes. I'm sorry.
So no worries, that's okay. So for me, it's a little bit maybe different. I'm not a teacher, so I don't come from an education background. I actually come from a completely different background. I actually have a business background. And I started with Dearborn Adult Ed as a college and career navigator. And again, the stories of students. I think the first thing I did is I was very involved with the students and their stories. And then I had gone to my first MACAE conference, actually. So for anybody who's new on this panel, I started my job back in August at that time. And the first MACAE conference was in October. So 2 months into my position. And then I met Oogie and Bob and Linda, the gang at that conference. And then the rest is history. I mean, Oogie and I, from day one, I knew this was going to be the committee I wanted to join, which is the Advocacy Committee. And this is how this was all born. And, student speak was a hot topic at that time, and training and so on. I've gone through the ambassador training. I took 2 of our students with me. And we did an event with Romulus. And again, it's the stories. How could you not be motivated and inspired by those stories when they're raw and authentic? And to see what adult ed does, it's the second chance and hope. Again, when people kind of can't do their GED or high school when they're 16 or 17 or 18, but then life happens, or they come from another country and life happens and they have to come back and do this, it's difficult. So your job in adult ed is to minimize those barriers like we do every single day, So to me personally, seeing those stories that really give us the inspiration to keep going. So what you want to do is you want to emphasize that. You want to emphasize that with their voices. You want people to hear like the impact that they have. These people kind of gone, you know, have a college degree now and they have a job, or their kids, they can teach their kids. So it's not only about the GED or any kind of training or ESL, or even having the citizenship. And as you can see today from Fatima's story, she has all of the above. She's a culmination of really what adult ed does. So to me personally, it's really emphasizing those stories and bringing them to the forefront and advocating with those substantial stories that people can hear. This is what our programs do. This is what we offer.
I can piggyback on that as well. So I'm from the other side of the state, the second largest program behind MACAE's. And Oogie, who she talked about, is my boss. And so as a teacher, this is my 7th year with our program. I would say one particularly strong story was from one of my students a few years ago. His name was Gatanazi, and he kind of kicked off my involvement in advocacy. He did the ambassador training, and then kind of spearheaded our student speak event that year. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it's been a little iffy trying to get more of those events going. But that first one was just so successful because we had such strong students sticking up for themselves. I know Oogie has said in the past, we can stand in front of senators and representatives and the governor or anyone and quote statistics about adult education, but it really impacts them more when they hear it straight from, I don't want to say it straight from the horse's mouth, but straight from the students themselves. And even from there, we were able to branch off even more so, particularly with Gatanazi. He shares his story freely, so that's why I'm able to share it with you all. He grew up in a refugee camp. Watched his brothers and his father be killed, grew up in the Gihembe camp in Rwanda, and literally won the lottery to come to the US. And I believe he said that they didn't know where they were going until they were pretty much on the plane. He could have ended up in Germany or Australia. And then was able to come, have his wife, his children, and is just, even after going through all this trauma, is just so successful and so cheerful. And it blows my mind that he's my age. Like, what was I doing when I was 12? I wasn't trying to survive in a refugee camp. I was just trying to navigate boys and clothes and crap. So it really hits you right at the core of who you are hearing these stories. And then with Gatanazi, one of our local state representatives, Tommy Brand, had referred us and Gatanazi to one of his other constituents, Jenison schools. And we took Gatanazi to Jenison High School, where he ended up speaking in front of 5 or 6 10th grade classes who were studying refugees at the time in their history and geography courses. So it was just really kind of full circle with Gatanazi in particular, but to understand that every single student we have out of what our 1,200 that we shoot for has a unique and interesting and impactful story, and just being able to lift their voices is, I mean, that's how adult education has impacted me. It's become, not to sound corny, but kind of my life's work, stemming from that.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Fatima Shireh. I am from Syria. Because of the war in Syria, I didn't. I cannot go to school. But when I arrived to the United States, 5 years ago, I didn't have a high school diploma. I was available to enroll in GED program, a light health STE program, and ESL and the citizenship classes. All these classes enhanced my knowledge, and I was available to pass all 3 GED tests. I still have the English GED test. Then I am done. Recently, my family and I become a U.S. citizen, and that is the big accomplishment because now we are American citizen. All this success is because of Dearborn Adult Ed program, and I want to thank all the staff and the teacher and the adult program.
Thank you guys for sharing your stories. Moving on to our next question. What was your advocacy or storytelling experience, either before your time in adult ed or maybe other issues that weren't adult ed related? And if this is your first time like sharing your story, talk a little bit about like how does it feel to be sharing your story like this in front of an audience?
This is for the panel too, right? The question, just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's all these questions for the panel.
I think, again, if anybody's new on this, again, we want to make sure that they know how easy it is to advocate. There was a session this morning that Renee Goen did, and then she had Ugi, and then my boss, Ioana, was there, and then 2 other directors. And then really the topic revolved around, basically you have to keep talking about what adult ed does. You have to keep advocating for this. You have to bring the stories, no matter how small they are, just keep bringing them to the forefront. You have to keep talking about them. If you're silent, no one will know what you do. So the takeaway this morning and today, and to answer your question, you have to keep at it. You have to keep letting them know the stories. You have to keep showcasing your students. You have to showcasing, like, Fatima just said, I don't want to steal her thunder when she spoke, but she started with our program with very limited English, if none. They're Syrian refugees. And, again, I don't want to brag about Fatima because she's not going to say it. They're a family of 11. So when in our program, it was her dad. Her dad was in the literacy ESL, and now he's in level 5, just to see that transition. There are 2 brothers that were there, same thing. They were in basic at that time, like, level 1 ESL. Now both of her brothers, one of them is in college, and then 2 are still just finishing their ESL with us. She's finishing her GED. So it was a family that was there. They took our citizenship classes. So this is what you want to showcase. For them, it's a success story. They just all became US citizens. So they're contributing members of society for them to do that. Her brothers worked even during COVID. They were frontline workers. They continued working. Her father, worked. She is, trying to finish her GED, going to college. And I know she wants to be a cardiologist. That's been her dream. So these are the stories you want to emphasize. If you're a first time, pick first thing I have to mention, you have to know your students. If you're somebody that wants to sit in their office and you have no idea, you're not connected to the students, it's not going to work. You have to be able to be in the field. You have to be able to see the students, to know their stories, to know their struggles. Teachers also are your best advocate for the students, because they will tell you, oh, so-and-so, is doing so-and-so. So you have to be able to be available to listen. Once you have 2 or 3 stories, again, it doesn't have to be to the congressperson, or it doesn't have to be to the state representative. It can be to your local principal. If you're in a building, your principal needs to know what you guys do. Your superintendent is the best advocate, I think, because again, your local, again, within your school district, sometimes that's the biggest advocacy, and the best advocacy is to start small, to start very local. If you're not sure how to do that, start very local. The principal, maybe one of the board members, maybe your superintendent, use Facebook, use social media to showcase these stories. Whenever we have somebody that passes our citizenship, it's all over Facebook. Because you know what, we want to show that there are people, like there are success, there's progress. People want to see progress. That's what success is progress. You're making progress with students. You're moving them from one level of their life to the next level. So we showcase these things. So you have to be able to be in the forefront. Keep talking about the stories. Even if you have 30 followers on Facebook, keep doing that. Walk in the classrooms, have students follow you. Keep just advocating for those stories. Keep showing what you do. Even if you have a very small audience, I guarantee you that audience will grow. Somebody will pay attention at some point. And that's how it happens. Our efforts in Dearborn for advocacy, and I'm sure, Ugi and Courtney will support that, they're organic efforts. They start small, they don't have to start big. So start organic at the lowest level, and then take it from there and advocate from there.
I guess for me, my experience with storytelling in the past has been pretty extensive. I was a theater major of all things and an English minor. So my storytelling has always been from the point of view of fiction. So shifting to an advocacy point of view, it's been more, of course, biography, or autobiography, I should say. But I agree with what Maha was saying is it needs to come from a very organic and authentic perspective. And of course, our students, if they know anything, they know about their own lives. And so my role as the teacher is just to guide them to be able to express those ideas in English to the potential audience, even if the audience is just me at the time. Since joining the advocacy committee at MACAE, of course, my experience has grown. And some of those we'll talk about in some of the other questions I'm seeing here. But it's just really coming at things from an authentic, organic point of view, making sure you're getting to the core of who they are and being able to, for ESL students, express that in English. And for our GED students, being able to express that to those policymakers and the people in positions of power who can make those meaningful changes.
Yes, I did 3 years ago. I spoke at the student speak events for the Dearborn Adult Ed. It was an excellent experience since I never spoke in public before. I was so nervous, but when I did it, it's like so good, and I was happy to share all my story with all. And I hope the student when I share the student help them to be more success, and they learn something to not stop or to continue even if there are a lot of difficult thinking, but let's keep going.
Thank you guys. Okay, so moving on to our next question. What is the biggest thing that you've learned telling your story or advocating? And is there anything you wish you knew when you started?
Stephen, can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes. What is the biggest thing you learned telling your story or advocating? Anything you wish you knew when you started?
I think the biggest thing is to show, again, the raw, authentic story. Have students almost like don't blur the lines.
Okay. What about you, Courtney?
I guess when I started, I was relatively young, and it was sometimes when I'm sorry, thought I was on mute. I guess sometimes when you're young, you might see things a little more black and white. Like some of our biggest advocates at the state legislative level, for example, have been Republicans, and I'm not. I'm kind of the exact opposite of what the Republican platform is, yet we've been able to work so well together. So, and advocate for our students and them being receptive to some of these things that maybe when I started advocating, I didn't think they would be as receptive to, if that makes sense. And for example, some of the lawmakers who come and toured our school building and have interacted with our students, it's just been very uplifting to just see things in more shades of gray. Being able to, being able to work together without things getting in the way that I maybe thought would have gotten in the way, and kind of that side of it. And then also a big thing I've learned is making sure you prepare your students, not just the storytelling itself. I think Fatima said when she spoke at the student speak, it was her first time speaking in public and was maybe some nervousness and anxiety. So I think I wish at our first student speak event, and that was relatively close to when I started advocating, is to prepare those things that you might not obviously think of at first. So maybe do a quick session of what are some tips for reducing this anxiety? What can we do to prepare for that side of it and not just the constructing of the story itself? So in hindsight, maybe I would have done more prep with those kinds of things than just the writing of the story itself.
Okay. Fatima, is there anything you wish you knew when you started, or how have things changed for you as you been storytelling and going to student speaks and things like that?
I didn't understand your question. Sorry.
Oh, I was just asking, how has it been for you? I guess, like, telling your story, how things changed for you from the first time you did it at a student speak to like today.
Yeah, it helped me a lot. It changed. I was the first time is I didn't do this experience before, but when I did it, like, I'm more comfortable to do a speaker in public, and also I was not a United citizen, and now I am a citizen, and I almost done with my GED. Also, definitely invite the student to share their story and learn from each other. When the student talk about their hardships and how difficult it was to have this second chance to get a GED or learn English or whatever program they need, students tend to listen to each other more. We need to make sure we keep the voice of students heard. We are the best advocates.
Okay, thank you. Fatima, I'm gonna ask you this question. What more would you like to see done by Michigan's children, as an organization that we are representing today, and everyone in this room, to help amplify stories like yours, amplify your story and stories like yours?
Sorry, I didn't get the question in the beginning. Is the internet? I think is not. Can you repeat it, please? Sorry.
Yes, sorry about that. I was asking, how can we better amplify your story? What is something that you wish that we would do for you, like to help you get your story out there and stories like yours?
Like, hear what the student experience, and like for me is everything. Like, I think the German adult a lot is nothing to do. Like, they give me more what I want, and I didn't think about that before. But when I am with adult, there's a lot of chance they give me to do what I want and what I hope I achieve my dream, and just listen to the student. I'm not sure if I understand your question right.
No, I think you understood it very well, and you gave a very great answer. I think that that's what we need to. We simply starts with listening, and giving you guys a chance to do things like this, and hopefully we can have more these type of events and bring more people in the room. So, because these stories need to be heard. Courtney, as a teacher, what do you think that organizations like Michigan's Children and others in this room can do to help amplify the stories of these students?
I like what Fatima said. Listen to your students, get to know your students. Listen to all of your students. I know the tendency at first, when I was working with students for our first student speak event, was to target those who were maybe in the intermediate to advanced group, solely for that they could more easily express themselves in English. we missed out, I think, on an entire population of low-level learners who have important stories that maybe we could have worked harder to translate and share, or work something more like that. So I know, definitely listen to all of your students, even if you do have to employ some kind of translating to get to those lower ones. For example, I am just finishing up week 2 of my new class of a group of 16 refugees from Afghanistan, most of whom, I mean, they have very little English because they never expected to need it until they were forced from their homes. One little old man, 74 years young, but still trying. And so stories like those are ones that maybe I would have not glossed over, but not have amplified as strongly because there was that communication barrier. So I guess just in general for all teachers and all organizations, just make sure you get that broad cross section. And I mean, it's adult ed, make it work is kind of our motto. So make it work. It would be my answer there.
Okay, thank you. Maha informed me earlier that she had to step out during this time period. So at this time, we'd like to have, are you still there?
I'm here. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Do you got time to answer the last question? How do you think we can amplify these voices more than what we're currently doing?
I think what Courtney said is imperative. I think same thing with us. And as you noticed today with Fatima, we wanted to make sure we bring that raw voice because her experience is exceptional. And I know that sometimes, like Courtney said, yes, we want the advanced students because they can articulate and express themselves better. When we had Representative or Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib that came into one of our classes to speak, the 2 students that introduced, we had kind of we incorporated the students speak to that. We had 2 students from level 3 ESL, so intermediate, so in between, introduced the Congresswoman, and both of them made so many mistakes and they had an accent, but that was a beauty. This was done actually on purpose. And that is something she actually highlighted. And she said she is so happy to see like her mother and her grandmother almost speak and to have the courage to come in and speak. So believe me, you think, okay, that's a weakness. It's actually a strength because people want to see you're learning English. Just think of yourself for a moment. If you're going right now to Finland and you have to learn that language, do you know how difficult that is to learn a new language when you're an adult? So sometimes we forget that if we were to learn a new language, it is absolutely very difficult. So it's the same thing with them. So the more you highlight their stories in their own authentic voice, making grammar mistakes, some words they can't pronounce, it's actually nice because it shows how much courage they have. So this is something like Courtney said, do not disregard the students at the lower levels because their stories is not any less significant.
Thank you guys so much for answering these questions and giving us your time today. We have a few minutes left for audience question and answer. So if you guys want to put a question in the chat and or hop on the mic and say and ask it, just make sure you guys address who you're asking the question to, and yeah.
Stephen, I had my hand raised
Okay.
a little earlier, but I just want to say thank you. One of your leading questions is what can Michigan's children do? You've done a lot. I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge the work that Michelle, has done in her participation. She's always kept us, and I think one of the things we always talk about is focusing Michigan's children's on work that children do. But we focus on our students. And so I just wanted to thank you for bringing some of the opinions that we've had through MACAE and adult education to our legislators and letting them know how important that our students' voices are. And hopefully we'll continue. I know we'll continue this relationship and things that we've done, but Michigan's Children has been one of our most solid partners in bringing our points of emphasis to the legislator. So just wanted to thank you. I know Bobby's on this too, what he's done, having those legislative forums and things like that, and including adult ed and family literacy and the messaging that you folks do. So just wanted to say thank you again.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us borrow Patrick for as long as we did. We really appreciated the work he did while he was splitting time between Michigan Children's and MACAE. So it's definitely a two-way relationship, and we appreciate you guys as well. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Can I please? I just want to say thank you so much for this audio and to hear our story and to let the student that they encourage. I want to say just I am one of these students who, when he came to America, I didn't know any English. I was in Syria. I was just learning like a basic English. Like I was studying just to pass the test. I never thought to come to American and to speak English like Arabic. I was just encourage the students who like in the beginning said like how I will serve this one and become I can speak English like Arabic. I was so nervous. I was thought about a lot about this, but I made it when I study, and the Dearborn adult helped me a lot. And I want to say thank you so much for all the teacher and staff and the adult. And I encourage all the student, the small or the adult, to keep going, and they will achieve one day all the dream that we have. They just will keep going. I wish for them the best.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm really glad that you were able to hop on this call with us today and share your story. It is powerful, and it's definitely giving me, some motivation myself to just, keep going and know that people need this work to be done. So I'm really glad that you had the time to join us today.
Just to give our audience members a couple more minutes to think of any questions they may have. I have one question for Fatima. Is there anything else you'd like to say about, anything special that either your teachers talked about with you or anybody else that helped you feel as confident as you could to, be able or willing to go and share that story?
Yes, I heard first the teacher is, of course, she encouraged me all the time, and sometimes, to be honest, I think this is true or just they want to tell me that to encourage. But in the end, when I got in there, they was giving me a big chance, or they helped me a lot. And also when I heard some of students like me in the beginning, how they achieve and how they they did a lot. I was like from the teacher and from hearing another story from the student is helped me a lot to continue and do not stop and believe I can do what I want.
Thank you. It really can be a reinforcing cycle sometimes like that.
Anybody else have anything they want to add or questions, or we can move on with our presentation?
Yeah, and if anybody has questions just in our last couple of slides here about what Michigan's children can do to help, if those questions would be for the panelists, that's fine. Feel free to ask them. You've been so generous with our time, Courtney, Fatima, and Maha. But we'll go along here into who Michigan's Children is, a little bit more detail, and how we can help you carry out the kind of really amazing work that our panelists spoke about. If you're not familiar, Michigan's Children is an independent, statewide nonprofit. We're politically independent. We're not partisan. We don't contribute to campaigns. We don't, we don't take public funding. We're a private, independent voice for children, youth, families, and the issues and the successes that they face. Our mission is fighting for public policies and programs in the best interests of children, youth, and families, with a real focus on equity and having fair chances at opportunities and positive and really great life outcomes. And we fight for issues based on what we learn from people with direct lived experience of decisions themselves. They could be students in adult learning programs, like what we're talking about today. They could be young people who've grown up in the foster care system or who've experienced homelessness, or parents who've struggled to find childcare. We spend the year working with folks like you all to learn directly from young people. And one of those ways that we learn from young people is by helping you connect the stories, the experience, the recommendations that the students, whether they're younger people, whether they're adults like parents, have directly with policymakers. Engaging with them. Before the pandemic, it was in person through events. It's been virtual. I'll give a little bit more detail on what we can offer in a sec. But we do that to make sure that policymakers are prioritizing what young people, families, students, especially have to say about what works and what's not working in their lives, so those programs, those problems and solutions can be dealt with. What we do in terms of how we can work with any of your programs to support, because we know that some of you may be working within an ISD or a public school district. Some of you may be working more in a nonprofit area. Everybody's in different positions, and we can work with you to amplify your student stories in the kind of the most maximum way that your position allows you to do. Whether it's connecting with individuals in your program to learn their story and publish them through written spotlights, or inviting them to write a guest blog, or sometimes we hold a monthly podcast episode, and sometimes students' stories are really powerful for that. We try to elevate the stories of people who've lived this experience as much as we can. Sometimes we'll do like what we do today, where we can come to your individual program, like we do through MACAE, the entire network, and we'll offer trainings to learn a little bit more, practice how to tell your story a little bit more, practice how to advocate, how to build a relationship with the lawmaker over the course of the year, because you are sort of the expert in your programs, either as teachers, administrators, or students. And especially the students on what is going on with adult students in our state. So helping you think about how to kind of take on that authority and really step into it with 2 feet year round. And then we help people plan how to directly share stories with decision makers. Like our student speak forums, those can be any time of the year. They can even be during the campaign. We've worked with adult education programs to host student speak forums where students ask questions to candidates in a nonpartisan manner. We work very hard as a nonpartisan organization ourselves to host events even during campaigns. This is a huge campaign year, in ways that are nonpartisan and that are really about creating another learning experience for students. We know some adult programs have a new citizens program or a civic component. And what better way to kind of exercise some civic lessons than having a forum directly with lawmakers where people can share stories or ask questions. We also help people if they want to come to the Capitol, organize their own Capitol Day or a visit, or invite a lawmaker to meet you at your own program on your own turf, because you don't always just have to go to their turf. You don't always just have to go to their office. You can invite them to meet with you. And a lot of times that can help students who've maybe never done it before feel a lot more comfortable. So there are a lot of ways that if you're interested in figuring out how can I get those student stories out more with decision makers, it was so great how our panelists really emphasized that there are all kinds of avenues, period, that you can elevate your students' stories and advocate for them, with the public, with, leaders higher up in your organizations, like at ISDs, for example, all kinds of avenues. And really, elevating with lawmakers is just one part of the kinds of ways that you can elevate stories. And that's really where our expertise is. So whether it's, through like a one-off project or figuring out year round, how are you kind of practicing that muscle and building that muscle memory? We're here to help do that. And we've got a lot of experience and gratefulness for the time that we've worked with the MACAE network, with adult education programs. We've heard incredible stories over a number of years that have grown champions for lawmakers. And it's all because somebody in, a number of different people in local programs got interested in doing this, found that confidence to do it, and was listening to their students to recognize all the incredible things that their own students have to share. And that's what we're all about, is helping people, no matter where you are on that spectrum, kind of get to the next step and be the fullest advocate for and with your students as you can. So really, to summarize, and we'll certainly, if there are questions, we want to take those two after. We're going to share this PowerPoint out, and on this slide, we make sure to link to some summaries of our previous Student Speak forums. If you're interested in what this could be like, it's a really great way to either both build skills for your students and to help your students display their skills for people that they've been growing. You can check out our previous Student Speak forums. You can read some event reports, see what it was like, what gets said, what it might look like. You can sign up for a bulletin if you just want updates from our organization year round on what's happening at the state level, what's happening for advocacy opportunities. If you sign up for that bulletin, you'll learn a little bit from us over the next couple months over how you can get involved with the campaigns in a nonpartisan way, just to elevate your students. And then if you have individual questions, Stephen and myself, we got Stephen's contact here, are here to talk with you and find an individual time. You always, I know, can reach out to, one of the board members who's worked with us too. They're always happy to make a connection, but we want you to know you can reach out directly to us. We're always eager to make a new connection and to help get more students involved in educating lawmakers, because they need to hear from the adult education community. They need to hear from students who are going through all kinds of successes and challenges. And we just are really excited for the chance to work with any of you in the coming months and years here.
Oogie, did you have something you wanted to say? I noticed that you were unmuted.
Well, I just want to say, let's not forget about our staffs. We focus on our students and the things that they do too, but we could not do it if I didn't have folks like Courtney with those relationships that she's building at the staff level. Our receptionists that are entering all the information and doing things that way also. They're the ones, along with the students, I think, who we need to make sure that they are also taken care of. And that their voices and their stories that they're doing, what they're doing in the classroom is just so important. Sometimes that's that missing link. We do it for the students, but the staff could, I know my staff could go and work in a regular K-12 system, making more money doing other things that way. So I want to just appreciate the sacrifices that the staff has also contributes to our system and what they do.
Anybody else want to have anything they want to add or say, or questions for
I'll
me?
add real quick too. I am more than willing, if anyone is interested in holding a student speak event. We've also done a candidate forum at Ken ISD, or even just some general, if you want to bounce some advocacy ideas off of me, or anyone who works for us really would be willing to do so. Feel free. I can put my contact info in the chat as well. But absolutely, never be afraid to reach out to us. And I'm sure Maha would say the exact same thing.
Thanks for putting your info out there too, Courtney. Well, we're very grateful for your time, Courtney, Maha, Fatima. We really thank you, especially for stepping up the way that you all individually have, and getting the word out about stories and advocacy. We are going to be here. Michigan's Children will be present at future MACAE events, but just keep on the lookout for us. We'd love for you to sign up and follow us, reach out individually. We would really love to work with you. We'd love to get to meet your staff and students and see what kind of exciting work can be done. But it sounds like it's about time for us to wrap up. And we hope everybody enjoys the rest of this the incredibly warm spring day. And sounds like there's a great Family Feud tonight for everybody. So we hope people enjoy the Family Feud.
Thanks,
you so
Bobby.
much.
Thank you so much.
So thanks to Bobby, thanks to Stephen, all our panelists. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and kind of sharing your experiences with us. So the rest of us can use that as a springboard, a point to kind of move forward with our own programs, with our own students, our own staff. So again, I hear it's beautiful outside. So we'll see it. We'll say see you tomorrow to most of you, hopefully, or maybe see you later for Family Feud. But thanks again for joining us and have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody.
All right.